Claude just learned to read your company, one Slack message at a time. On June 23rd, Anthropic shipped Claude Tag, a feature that's about to change how AI works inside every business. Here's the wild part. You drop a single tag into your Slack workspace, and Claude starts watching your messages, learning how your team talks, what matters to you, how your business actually works. Then it remembers it all. Forever. Think of it like hiring an assistant who sits in on every meeting, reads every document, absorbs your company culture, understands your lingo, and then never forgets a single thing. Suddenly, Claude stops sounding like a generic robot. It sounds like someone who actually works at your company. But here's the twist. Anthropic is learning from all this data too. They're studying billions of Slack messages to understand how real companies actually communicate. And this feature is still in early access, which means nobody yet knows the full ripple effects. This isn't just another AI tool. It's solving the problem that's broken enterprise AI for years. How do you make an AI that actually understands your business instead of just giving generic answers? Here's what makes this different and why it matters more than the headlines are saying. For years, enterprise AI has had one fatal flaw. It doesn't know anything about your actual company. You ask ChatGPT or Claude a question about your business, and you get a generic answer that could apply to any company anywhere. Why? Because these models were trained on the internet. They know common knowledge, but they know nothing about your unique processes, your culture, your specific challenges. That's always been the gap. Every company in the world has spent billions trying to bridge that gap. They hire consultants, they build custom AI systems, they dump documents into expensive AI platforms, they spend months training custom models, and it's all expensive, slow, and it works, maybe 50% of the time. Anthropic looked at this problem and asked a simple question. What if we just let Claude watch your company in real time? Not through some clunky document upload system or a data warehouse. What if Claude could just pay attention to the actual conversations happening in Slack right now? That's the insight that led to Claude Tag. It's almost unsettlingly simple. The tag integrates directly into Slack, reads the messages in channels you've set it to watch, learns your language and processes, and stores that knowledge in what Anthropic calls a context window. When you ask Claude something, it pulls in that context automatically. It sounds straightforward, but the engineering here is sophisticated. Here's how Claude Tag actually works under the hood. Anthropic didn't build some monster system that stores everything forever in a database. Instead, they built something that lives directly inside Slack as a bot. You create a tag, let's call it a Claude Tag team, and you drop it into channels where your team's important discussions happen. The engineering, financial planning channels, whatever. From that point on, Claude Tag watches those channels in real time. It doesn't record everything, that would be a nightmare. Instead, it uses a technique called semantic summarization. Think of it like Claude reading your Slack history and creating detailed notes about how your team works. What vocabulary do you use? What are your processes? What matters to you? What are your common problems? All of that gets compressed into what Anthropic calls a context embedding, essentially a mathematical representation of your company's knowledge. When you later ask Claude a question, that embedding gets fed into Claude's context window alongside your question, so Claude knows about your company while answering. The clever part is that this happens at inference time, not training time. Anthropic isn't retraining Claude on your data. They're not building a custom model just for you. Instead, they're injecting that context directly into the conversation, the way a human would if you told them about your company before asking for advice. It's fast, it's flexible, and it doesn't require any AI expertise from your team. Let's make this concrete. Imagine you're an engineer at a software company. You've got a codebase, you've got naming conventions, you've got architectural patterns that are unique to your team. You ask Claude how to structure a new service. Without Claude Tag, Claude gives you generic advice. Here's a pattern that works for most services. With Claude Tag, Claude actually knows your codebase. It knows you call your configuration objects specs, not configs. It knows you use a 3-tier naming convention for your microservices. It knows your team uses Kafka for event streaming, so Claude's answer fits your codebase instantly. Or imagine you're in sales. You've got specific terminology about how your company talks about its product. You've got competitor comparisons you always use. You've got pricing tiers and deal structures. You ask Claude to help draft a customer email. Without Claude Tag, it's generic. With it, Claude sounds like one of your sales team. It uses your lingo. It knows your pricing. It knows exactly how much flexibility you have on discounts, or in product, you're planning a feature. Claude suddenly understands your product's architecture, your user base, your constraints. It knows what you've tried before that didn't work. It knows your roadmap philosophy. This is what enterprise AI was supposed to do all along, actually understand the business it's working for. So how does this compare to what OpenAI, Google, and others are doing? OpenAI's been trying to solve this with fine-tuning and custom models, but those are expensive and slow. They require training time, and you have to send your data to OpenAI's servers. Google has similar offerings in Vertex AI. You can feed it documents and it learns from them, but it's all cloud-based and requires setup. Microsoft's been pushing Copilot with context through SharePoint and OneDrive integration, but that's tightly locked to the Microsoft ecosystem. You need to be all in on Office 365, and the context is limited to documents you've explicitly uploaded. Anthropic's approach is different in 3 ways. First, it's real-time. Claude Tag watches your Slack conversations as they happen, not documents you manually feed it. Second, it doesn't require sending your data to train new models. The context injection happens at inference time. You keep your data. Anthropic doesn't retrain anything. Third, it's genuinely simple. You drop a tag in Slack. Done. No API setup, no custom infrastructure, no data pipelines to build. The downside? It's still early. It's early access only, and there are legitimate questions about privacy and data retention that Anthropic hasn't fully answered yet. But in terms of solving the enterprise AI problem, making AI that actually understands your business, this is the simplest approach any major AI company has shipped. Here's the question that needs to be asked. What happens to your Slack data? Anthropic says they're using it to understand how companies communicate, and they're promising that your company's data is only used for your company. They're not training the base Claude model on your Slack messages, but they are analyzing billions of messages from all their Claude Tag customers to improve their models. That's different from fine-tuning, but it's still significant. Your data is being used to improve AI products that Anthropic will sell to everyone. Is that okay? For some companies, absolutely. For others with sensitive information, financial data, health records, proprietary research, it's terrifying. Anthropic hasn't fully published their privacy policy for Claude Tag yet. They've said the data is encrypted and handled carefully, but the details matter. How long is Slack data retained? Can it be deleted on demand? Can you audit what Anthropic has learned about your company? There's also a practical issue. Slack isn't a secure archive for sensitive information. It's ephemeral by design. Now you're asking companies to treat Slack like a knowledge base that Claude Tag will learn from forever. That changes the culture of how you use Slack. But here's the flip side. Companies already use Slack for sensitive conversations every day. At least this way. Claude might actually give better advice about those conversations. The real story here is that enterprise AI is finally getting sophisticated, but the governance hasn't caught up yet. If you're at a company considering Claude Tag, here's what you need to know about getting started. First, you request early access. Anthropic's offering it through their Slack integration platform. You'll need Slack workspace admin permissions. Then you install the Claude Tag bot into your workspace. Next, you designate which channels Claude Tag should watch. Most companies start with a few channels: engineering documentation, product planning, maybe company strategy. You don't put it in every channel, that's too much noise. You pick channels that contain your company's core knowledge. Then Claude watches those channels, summarizes what it learns about how your team works, and that summary becomes available to Claude whenever you ask it questions. When you're using Claude, either through the Slack interface directly or through Claude AI, you can toggle whether you want Claude Tag context included. The practical workflow is, you're stuck on a problem, you ask Claude. And Claude pulls in knowledge about how your company solves similar problems. It's that simple. The hard part is deciding what information Claude should see. Some companies will want complete transparency, dump everything into Claude Tag. Others will be cautious and start with non-sensitive channels. There's no one right answer. It depends on your industry, your privacy requirements, and your risk tolerance. Right now, it's invite-only early access, so you can't just turn it on immediately, But the interest is massive. Anthropic says they're getting flooded with requests. So what does Claude Tag really mean? It's the first real attempt by a major AI company to solve enterprise AI the right way. Not through expensive retraining, not through clunky document uploads, but through real-time observation of how your company actually works. If it works at scale, everything changes. Imagine an AI that isn't just smart, it's smart about your business. It understands your code, your culture, your processes. You turn it on, point it at your Slack, and suddenly you've got an AI that thinks like your company. The questions that matter are about execution and trust. Can Anthropic keep your data private while analyzing it? Will other AI companies build their own versions? Will there be regulations around corporate AI data use? For now, Claude Tag is early access only, and Anthropic is being cautious. But the direction is unmistakable. The next generation of enterprise AI won't be built on retraining proprietary models. It'll be built on real-time context flowing directly from how you actually work. That's a genuinely significant change, not incremental progress, a fundamentally different approach to making AI useful in the real world. Follow for daily AI news. We'll be watching how this unfolds, because it's going to shape how every company uses AI moving forward.